streak fur against cold stone, eyes like embers barely shone. You didn't flinch when I drew near, just held your breath and disappeared. I wrapped you soft in borrowed thread, your heart